I feel special, a special type of connection to certain people in my life, and I have experiences with people, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily a roster. I don't have like a list of names that I'm going through and like hitting up when, I want something from people.
You said you have special connections with people
Yeah.
in your life. How many special connections do you have currently?
Maybe like, it's really hard to actually answer that question because, people come and go and I just graduated. So people have like come into my life and left my life. So I couldn't really give you a solid number on that.
I'll try to make it a little easier. So you said you just graduated and then maybe other people are back home during the summertime. If we just rewind 4 months ago, so that brings us to April, let's say April, prior to UCSB letting out. How many special connections did you have then?
I was exclusive with one person at that time.
Was that the 8-month guy?
No.
Okay. How long were you exclusive with the guy back in April?
4 months.
4 months. When did that end? In May?
In April.
Okay, let me fast forward 1 month. So let's go to May. How many special connections did you have then?
I wasn't counting, but like special connections is in, I just don't define it in like love is complicated for me, man. I don't want to answer that question.
Well,
yeah, I'm really confused as to what a special connection is.
Right. I don't mind that you're confused. I don't think that's the question I want to answer.
Well, it's kind of like that's the purpose of the show, is to talk about people's
Actually, no, you're right. You're right.
Relationship situations. Are you currently like dating a couple people right now?
No.
Do you have a special connection with anybody right now?
Yes.
Okay.
So do you take
yes,
issue
but we're
with...
not dating.
Well, so you take issue with the term dating. To you, dating would that imply what?
I think it's because actually people who I develop a relationship with tend to be my friends first for a long time. So that's why it kind of complicates it. Because even if something happens between us or we have a romantic connection, they are still my friend first. At least in my perspective on it. Mm-hmm. I prioritize our friendship before anything else. So it doesn't feel like it's a roster necessarily because it's not, I don't view them as,
Well, I have a question for you. From your perspective, what is a girlfriend or a boyfriend?
I think that's someone who you have consciously chosen to pursue kind of a partnership with, where there's a shared goal and you guys are moving towards that shared goal together. And I think a label is involved where a conversation is had and that's decided that you guys are going to be going on a journey together, whether, that be forever. Yeah, like a journey together,
It's all about the journey.
Honestly, yeah, it is.
So how would you define a special connection?
I think there's certain people, and I know not everyone believes in this, but there's certain people that you meet who the way I view it is that people act as either a door, a mirror, or a window, kind of. And there's people that you meet who will either reflect yourself back to you, open a door for you and show you how a different way that life could be, or maybe give you a glimpse of something that you want but isn't necessarily in your reach just yet. And I think that there's been certain men in my life who I've met who have brought out the parts of me that have questions that need answering, and that relationship the emotions that I feel through a relationship like that often become romantic, and that's when a connection for me becomes special.
Sounds almost like esoteric sex magic, right?
Slightly, sure.
Yeah. So you have So you have friends, and they teach you stuff, and then you end up in a romantic relationship with them.
You can.
Yeah.
But I think that mature communication is really important when it comes to those situations, because you can actually end up complicating your life quite a bit when you don't have open communication with people who you love.
What do those men teach you?
I think more recently they've taught me about, like specifically this one person that I have in mind has taught me the difference between, like I feel like I'm constantly trying to get closer to the truth, whatever that may be. And I've realized that there is a really big difference between perception and perspective, and how we lack understanding amongst each other because we fail to see the differences in our perspectives because of our own perception, which is built on our own personal life experiences and all these labels that we give ourselves that form our identities. And they teach me about the woman I want to be, and also maybe where I'm failing to kind of step up to the plate, failing to take on responsibility out of fear, maybe running away from myself in certain ways, where actually certain people will highlight that I'm strong enough and brave enough to confront those dark sides of myself. And the way I view my relationships is in a very spiritual way. So that's what I grow to appreciate. And maybe that's never led to a relationship for me, but it's because it really just wasn't, I do believe in divine timing, and it wasn't right, so it just hadn't fit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So are you currently seeing somebody?
No, currently I am not.
Special connections, though.
You said you currently have multiple special connections.
Yeah.
But
So I'm trying to word this in such a way because you didn't like the dating
Divinely
framing.
inspired special connections.
yeah.
So you've just been celibate for 4 months?
Well, I mean, that wouldn't be a very special connection now, would it?
No, I haven't been celibate, but
So when I use the word dating or date, that sort of that can encapsulate everything from a one-night stand to like super serious boyfriend and girlfriend, just as an umbrella term. So I know it sounded like you had a different definition of, because I asked you if you're dating anybody
right.
or if you've dated these people.
Yeah,
So
that's why we're trying to figure out the distinction when you say special connection. That's why I'm asking, what would the difference between that and dating be, kind of under your worldview? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's people that I encounter on a day-to-day that I've built a relationship with, a friendship with, and we hang out, do certain things together, like as friends, but then maybe suddenly there's a kind of shift in the way that we feel about each other, but I'm not necessarily hooking up with those people. That's why I don't consider it to be dating them. Like it doesn't necessarily have to encompass all the things that you might consider when that implies.
So I see that, I understand you don't like labels. I get that, right? But the way that human beings associate things is through labeling them, right? That's how we have a frame of reference to point at something. So if you had to take this idea of special connection and put a label on it, which commonly would be understood, what would it be closest to?
Just friends that I'm attracted to.
Kind of like friends with benefits?
No,
No?
it's I prefer not to define it, honestly.
But if you could put a label on it that people would understand best, like if you're gonna describe a concept to somebody, you usually use concepts which are different, but they're close. That way we can make it an association, right? That way we can figure out what it's close to, what it's like.
A crush.
A crush. Okay.
Isn't a crush typically one directional?
It could be a reciprocated crush.
Well, okay, a crush in my essentially means you like somebody,
Yeah,
you're attracted to them.
yeah.
Right, but that doesn't really explain the actual dynamic that is occurring between the two people.
Right. No, and sometimes it can be like unrequited kind of attraction, and then other times it could be that for me too. So it just depends on the person and the circumstance.
Okay. So you said you've been single for 4 months? You said in April you ended things with a guy. You were seeing him for 4 months. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was it monogamous?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The 8-month relationship, was that monogamous?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you always monogamous?
If it's serious.
Have you ever dated multiple people at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay. What's like the most amount that you've dated at the same time? Like 3, 4, 15?
Maronite Catholic Aussie donated $69. Why are you complicating something that doesn't need to be complicated? WTF, are you hiding or preventing yourself from being labeled as? Everyone can see right through your prattle.
Okay.
So this, as not, maybe perhaps refined, right? This is a good point which is being made, which is usually if I'm trying to explain a concept to somebody and they're just kind of like not getting the concept, maybe it's a personalized concept, I try to use things that they can closely associate with something else. That way I can explain to them what's in my head, right? Because that's what you're trying to do, draw a picture inside somebody's head so they can understand what you're talking about. But it does seem like you're being a little bit evasive on kind of letting us know what you mean here by special connection, right?
Right. I think the reason why I'm quote unquote complicating it, it's not intentional. I think it's actually because it's quite complicated for me in my head. So
If you were
yeah.
going to explain it to a 10-year-old, how would you explain it to a 10-year-old?
We're gonna boost the TTS, by the way, guys. So TTS is now 200. Go ahead. Explain it to us like we're 5.
Unfortunately, I do not have the words to articulate myself. I guess I don't have the words to explain myself. I'm sorry about that.